Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vic, and I'm a researcher at the MIT Media Lab. I work in the space of augmented reality. So my project is called LUI. It stands for Large User Interface. And a little bit about what I'm working on is creating a new web framework for spatial and AR platforms. And currently, it is a multimodal gesture and voice interface for interacting with media and large displays. The goal of it is that we're creating a new way of expression that utilizes your sort of natural input for controlling like AR content. And so a couple of my advisors, John Underkoffler actually was one of the original person that invented the Minority Report back in the day, the design behind that, and we've been working on a new design concepts here. And we're excited to kind of share more about what we're working on and find a space where this interface would be really useful for. And so if you go back like several years, right, when you look at Minority Report, the idea of using gestures has been in industry or in scientific, in sci-fi for a long time, and using swipes and gestures and creating a way for multimodal interfaces. And on the right, you see someone from America's Got Talent using sort of gestures to interact with content in large displays. Now you see this like in sci-fi and reality, but why don't we see that today? And a lot of it's because of the way that sensors were used back in the day. For example, in the Minority Report interface, you would use a pair of gloves that you wear on, and this gloves would sense your tracking motion. But nowadays, you can use sort of sensors that are that enable more free-handed experience, which I'll describe more. And so, prior to the Media Lab, I was actually at Magic Leap and helped develop their AR platform there on the hardware side. And one of the things I noticed was we still use these controllers to interact with content we see today. And how do we sort of remove that away from us and kind of enable more natural UI input using our gestures and voice? And so one of the main markets I'm looking at is like large displays, whether it's for professional settings, public settings, museums, and creating a more of an OS or operating system for that kind of interface. And if you look at some prior art in the space, you know, there's some very early research done in looking at multimodal interfaces, but they're very primitive. And basically what I'm creating here is a much more advanced system that is using very minimal tracking and use free-handed gestures, and the UI is way more immersive. And this is sort of what I envisioned for this interface. And basically the idea is you would approach this interface on a large display, whether it's here, whether it's in a public setting, and you can interact with it using your gestures or your voice or other kind of commands. And the goal of it is it's easily accessible. You want it to be web-based. And also fits for all kinds of large displays. And one of the key things I'm trying to create here is make it very developer-friendly. As you saw in previous work in the Minority Report interface, they're very localized interfaces. And usually you would have to it takes hundreds of thousands of dollars to implement them into real-world experiences. And here, I want this to be widely accessible, where people can develop on this platform and interact with it just like they do with their desktop or PC. And so what I'm doing right now is creating a framework of gestures and voice to basically create that interface network, and basically making sure that this is sort of optimized for any kind of user that wants to approach it. And again, the few applications I'm looking at right now is sort of the heads-up displays AR market for modeling, engineering purposes, etc. And this is a little example of what I've created already. So you see here it tracks my hand, and I can swipe, I can sort of unlock my screen, access different applications, all free-handed, no touching at all, no gloves at all, anything. And I can access different applications like my photos or videos and use various gestural inputs to kind of connect with that. And this is very useful for a large display purposes where I can stand here and kind of interact with displays and control content. So we're currently adding new applications like games, videos, apps, modeling, exercises, and other interesting things we can do to browse content. I see this as a future of interaction. I think that there's a lot of potential for the future of AR and content. So this is something that we're creating not only for displays, but also for augmented reality content as well. And so we're also connected in many user studies as well, through the Media Lab and through other programs like the Play Labs Accelerator at MIT. And we're excited to kind of show more of our work that's coming up. And I'm basically excited to share more about this space, but also look at a key market such as large displays that could use this kind of interface for new business applications. Thank you.